Hello. Thank you for clicking on my video. And before that, I just wanted to say that although this video doesn't contain any major spoilers for any of these shows, however, I think it's best viewed with context. With that being said, enjoy my video. For this video, I watched the first 3 seasons of The Office and Parks and Recreation. Although I've seen every episode of both shows, but for accuracy reasons, we're only going to be talking about the first 3 seasons for each of them. In this video, I'm going to be going over some similarities and differences I noticed when I was watching these 2 shows. With that being said, let's begin. Starting with a little something I like to call changes to a character, namely this character, Michael Scott. You might have already noticed that Season 1 Michael was very different from later seasons Michael, even appearance-wise as well. Season 1 Michael ended up feeling like this villain that people would root against, and it's obvious that nobody in the office even likes him, although he often says,
"People say I am the best boss."
He's not good at anything he says he is. He is not funny, he's not charming, and most importantly, he's not good at basketball. Oh, and he also is not very good at his job. Michael was a villain any way you put it, and the upbringings he got felt ultimately deserved. However, the creators soon realized if they wanted the show to last longer than their friend over the pond, this setup wasn't going to work. What I admire is how fast they were able to make such changes so quickly. Season 2, Episode 7, The Client, was when the changes were the most noticeable. Jen and Michael had to sign an important deal, and if they do, the branch might not get downsized. Throughout the entire dinner, Michael derails the conversation and brings up Jen's divorce repeatedly, but in the end, he closes. This moment shows that he is competent and stops the audience from wondering why he even had this job in the first place. Moving on to Season 1 of Parks and Recreation. Now, hot take alert, but I feel like initially Parks and Recreation was trying way too hard to be like The Office, when the characters they have created clearly do not fit well with that idea. Leslie Knope was supposed to be a lovable goofball that works too hard and cares too much, but Season 1 Leslie was just too much. She seemed like nothing more than the female version of Season 1 Michael Scott, who, like I mentioned, faced some big changes to make him more likable. This character was supposed to be portrayed as passionate, but also kind and overall likable, but Season 1 Leslie was just way too intense, and her immediate friendship with Anne made zero sense. Compared to Michael, Leslie's changes were less noticeable because it was also less immediate. But slowly she is becoming more caring and more human as the story goes on, proven by Season 1 Episode 6, Rock Show. In the end of this episode, we see her finally grow more mature and gets over Mark. That was the start to future Leslie, who's supported and loved by her coworkers because she is, although sometimes a little goofy, but overall smart and level-headed. Moving on. In wacky sitcoms like Parks and Recreation and The Office, there is usually a character that looks at the camera and goes, "Wow, these people are weird, am I right, guys?" It's an easy way to add punchlines and makes the audience feel more engaged with that character. And honestly, I have no problem with that. However, when Parks and Rec just started out, Mark Brendanowitz was supposed to be the gym helper of Parks and Recreation, but he got kicked off at the end of Season 2. Why? Why wasn't Jim? Well, that's what I'm about to tell you. First off, Jim was funny and Mark wasn't. In a show like Parks and Rec, I find scenes with Mark way too serious, and there's just nothing interesting about him for us to watch. When he was introduced, he didn't really have a personality, and he still doesn't. Him and Anne started dating in Season 2, but that still wasn't enough to make him interesting. And that's probably why later on in the season, Mark had less and less to say, and the writer shifted the main focus to Andy and April's relationship instead. Compared to Mark and Anne's, Jim and Pam's relationship kept the audience invested. The scenes they were together were cute, or at least very entertaining. Jim probably played one of the biggest roles in the first 3 seasons. We even followed Jim to the Stanford branch after he left. The story was almost centered around Jim and Pam's relationship, and after such a long time, there needed to be closure for them. But for Mark, his character left the show because there was nothing left for him to do. After Anne broke up with him, his story had reached a conclusion. So Mark was boring, but he was only also just a plot device. For a number of times throughout season 2, he was the go-to guy for everybody else's problems. For example, when Leslie and the Parks Department was designing a mural, or when Tom asked Mark for relationship advices. I think you get the idea by now. Compared to Jim, who was one of the main characters, Mark was only a side character that only appeared when the plot needed him. Next, we have cast sizes. This is a small one, but I think it's noticeable enough to be brought up. The Office and Parks and Recreation both are based on people in the workplace. That makes the size of the cast different to fit their fictional departments. Parks and Recreation at season 3 had 8 main characters and 2 supporting characters. The Office had 5 main characters and at the end of season 3, 11 supporting characters and 4 recurring ones. This makes it so in The Office we only see a few characters' relationship with one another, and the other characters are often just there. Compared with The Office, in Parks and Rec, we are able to understand every character and their subsequent relationship with each other because they are more fleshed out. The Office certainly had really awkward characters, and that's what made it funny. Parks and Rec is about people who work with each other, that also love and support each other. Well, except for Jerry, obviously. Unlike The Office, which is more like if you made a bunch of people that hated each other work together. What more is that the characters from The Office also felt more real. I'm obviously not saying that Parks and Rec's characters felt fake. I'm simply saying that the viewers watching could feel like they know a Michael or Jim from their own life. The characters are flawed in a relatable sense. Parks and Recreation had characters that felt generally more optimistic, and because of that, the show also felt lighter. The Office, on the other hand, had a story that didn't always end on the best notes. But it's when these flawed characters that we want to see succeed don't, it feels the most real.